Hello and welcome back to my channel and to my Lewton retrospective. And today we're talking about Curse of the Cat People, the sequel to Cat People. Now, this is the film, when I was a teenager and I started discovering these movies, I thought, wow, there's a sequel to Cat People, that movie that I loved. And you get it out on video or whatever and you watch it and you think, what the hell is this? Some kind of kids movie about some kid with an imaginary friend in the garden. And so you reject it, don't you? This is the one that I suspect most horror fans just can't be bothered with. And I hated it when I was a teenager. But as I've got older, I've come round to this movie and I've grown to really like it and be quite fond of it. It's a very strange film. It's in many ways one of the most beautiful children's films ever made, I think. But it's not really a children's film for children. It's really for older sentimental adults like me, getting towards old age. It's a sort of fairy tale, a child's fairy tale made for adults. And we'll see that it's particularly made for parents. We'll come on to that later. The film has a very strange relationship with the original parent film. So the couple, Kent Smith and Jane Randolph, they've now moved to the country out of New York and they've had a child, right? And the child is struggling. She's a 6-year-old girl, but she's a bit of a daydreamer. She doesn't get on with her pals, right? And she's increasingly retreating into a world of childhood fantasies. And Kent Smith, you remember Kent Smith, he was the dolt from Cat People, the doltish partner. Well, he proves to be an equally doltish parent. In fact, he's worse in this film. And again, he's worried, you see. He's worried because this typical Lewton fear of superstition and imagination. It's no good for the kid. She needs to go out playing with the other children, not on her own dreaming, that's bad. And here comes the strange relationship to the original film. That he says that this is what he saw with Irena, the girl he was married to, the cat person. And now, Irena, I can't remember how it's pronounced, she is now seen as a madwoman. That this was all in her mind. The reality of her turning into a cat has been changed into her having delusions. That's the first odd relationship to the previous film. The second odd relationship to the previous film is that the girl develops a imaginary friend in the garden who is Irena. So you're thinking, wow, this is weird. So is the ghost of Irena coming back to take revenge or haunt the young couple? Is she having revenge on the Kent Smith character through his daughter? What's going on? And then Elizabeth Russell turns up. Now, you'll remember her. She's a fantastic cat-like face, wonderful looking actress, extraordinary face. And in the original film, she comes up to Irena at her engagement party and goes, Moja sestra? Do you remember? And so she's like a catwoman, a fellow catwoman. Now, the fellow catwoman in Curse of the Cat People becomes this young woman who lives down the road in this old house, like a witch's house, with her elderly mother. And they live in this sort of run-down old mansion together. And the young girl in the film befriends the old woman. They become chums, much to the annoyance of the Elizabeth Russell character, who's actually the woman's daughter. But this old woman has had some kind of breakdown or some kind of dementia and won't recognise her own daughter. Very odd relationship to the original script of Cat People. So the film is really about the mind of this young girl, the world of this young girl, and how she's going to grow up, and this fear that she's retreating into herself and they need to bring her out of herself. The film starts, very importantly, on a bridge. Some kids are out in a school trip, and the first shot is of them on a bridge, right? That's important because this film is about the bridge between childhood and adulthood, between fantasy and reality, between the natural and the supernatural, right? And the bridge is also important because the film is explicitly put in the same village as the location of Sleepy Hollow, which is a famous American myth. It's been made into a film by Tim Burton about this headless horseman who chases through the night. And if you're on the bridge, you'll become a victim of the headless horseman. So this is an image that plays throughout the whole film. Incidentally, right at the start of this film, there's also a moth, just like there is in the ghost ship. Yes, the moth is back. And it's also important because she runs after it. Again, it signifies her ideals, her dreams. And a little boy thinks, all right, I'll catch it for her. And he catches it and kills it. And he thinks, she wanted to get hold of it. She wanted the physical thing. But actually, the dream of the butterfly is shattered. And again, that is another theme that runs through the entire film. So Kent Smith is worried about this interior world taking over the child. Again, this strange thing in the Val Lewton films, this fear of superstition, this fear of imagination. But he's being rather doltish and rather annoying about it. And the girl finds solace with this older woman in this house who's portrayed as a kind of witch character. But what she is actually, she's an ex-actress living in the dreams of her former glory. This film anticipates Sunset Boulevard by quite a few years. It's quite interesting. And so what is interesting about this film is that it's about how youth, childhood and infancy, and old age find comfort in each other because they're the same. They are two ages which retreat into dreams as comfort, retreat into escapism. Either getting away from a difficult world or going back to a former nostalgic world. And so they're both sort of locked in these dreams and they find each other, they find company through each other. And the film is often about the cruelty of those two ages. What are they running away from? The child is running away from the cruelty of other kids who are nasty about her or who won't play with her. She can't find communion with others, so she retreats into dreams. The woman feels that she's lost everything. She's lost her fame, she's lost her daughter, at least in her mind, so she retreats into the glories of the past. The cruelty of age, but also the communion between infancy and old age. So it's a strange film because it's, on the one hand, there's an idea that we should guard against imagination, but on the other hand, there's a warmth and comfort in it. And at the end, doltish Kent Smith comes round to that. And this is where the parenting side of it comes into it. This whole film is a kind of weird parenting manual. How to bring up your child in the modern age. It's very strange. It even references a genuine book. It's called The Inner World of Childhood, Francis Wicks. I looked this up after I'd watched the film. It's a genuine parenting book that was around in the 1940s. And it's kind of like, here's a bad father who's not really in tune with what his child's feeling. Now, what you've got to understand is you've got to go along with your child's fantasies, and then you can build a bond between them. It's very odd. Under the guise of a horror film called Curse of Cat People, there's this kind of finger-wagging parenting manual. Very strange indeed. And then, so all these things are coming together. And then this idea of this weird sequel to the original film, and this idea of, the cruelty of childhood and needing to bond comes together in one of the strangest shots in the whole Val Lewton series. So what happens is the girl runs away from home because Irena has left her. She's finally exorcised the imaginary friend, but she runs out after her into the woods. It's cold, it's snowing. Eventually she finds herself at the old actress's house, and the old actress trying to help her dies. Elizabeth Russell's character says, even in death you've taken her final moments away from me. The child now, a brilliant moment of writing and direction. In her sort of hysteria, she sees the Elizabeth Russell character as Irena. The two merge, they're superimposed over each other. A brilliant callback to the original Cat People film. Remember, she was the woman who said, Moya Sestra, and now she becomes literally the sister. They become as one. And the girl goes towards her as her friend. And you see this fantastic shot where Elizabeth Russell's hands, like claws, go round the hair of the little girl. That fine margin between care and hatred. And then slowly the claws pull apart. It's an extraordinary shot. We should say that this is the directing debut of Robert Wise, who went on to make West Side Story, Sound of Music, The Andromeda Strain, The Haunting, Day the Earth Stood Still, major Hollywood director. But he only got this directing debut because the original director, Gunter von Frisch, what a great name, Gunter von Frisch couldn't keep up with the shooting schedule. so he was replaced with Robert Wise, and it's a very good debut from Robert Wise. So there we have it. This is never going to be the most popular instalment of the Val Lewton cycle. It's not particularly scary, but it's very atmospheric and it's rather charming, it's beautiful, and I've grown to love it as much as the others in a very different kind of way. And I hope you discover it for yourself and enjoy it. Thanks very much.